How's it going, everybody? Thank you for joining us. This is Carlos, one of your hosts of the Bring on the Blitz podcast here in the RSKina Podcast Network. With me today, I got Rios in the house. How's it going, Rios?
Man, going pretty good. What a weekend of football in
What
college
a
and in the
weekend!
pros.
Yeah, what a weekend of football it was. So shocking upsets happening in the world of college football, and of course, crazy weekend for NFL football as well, man. But we're gonna talk today a little bit about the Texans versus Bills game on the H Town Blue, returning to Houston.
Or
Uh, exactly. And then some more, or standout and shout out players, and that should be it. Stay tuned after the intro. Hit it. All right, let's see. So the Texans went off against the Buffalo Bills this past weekend, and I mean it was one of those where you kind of, depending on how you saw it, the Bills, they had just came from a loss against Baltimore the previous weekend, so it felt like, okay, maybe some redemption in hand. Maybe we're gonna make the Texans look a certain way, or expose some of the Texans' weaknesses. A little bit still too close for comfort. Rios, what do you think on that one? Before we dive into everything else, a little too close for comfort, isn't it?
it was a tale of two halves, honestly. Like the first half, it looked like it felt like the Texans were going to blow the door open. But
Mhm.
we'll talk about one of the ugly aspects of the game, where it kind of bogged them down, which we've mentioned several times, is the play calling, especially that curious decision to run up the middle on 4th and 1 when your quarterback has been throwing darts all afternoon, but you give the ball to your basically your third string running back. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's a tale of two halves, and yeah, we'll talk into it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Some questionable calls, some play calling, right? Some questionable play calling, which has been a story since the beginning of the season. Aside from that, I mean, uh, in that play call, like I understand your point because it's like Wale got shut down like 6 times throughout the entire game.
He wasn't very effective as a runner. He was more effective as a pass catcher, which
Yeah,
before the game started, I figured, hey, they probably have Cam Akers running between the 20s, be two down back, and then have Wale out there in obvious pass situations because he's a more effective pass catcher than
right.
Akers is. But they kind of reversed the roles this week, and I mean it worked. It worked when it worked, but when it didn't work, it was pretty hard to watch.
Correct. Yeah, it was pretty hard to watch in that aspect. I mean, I didn't really. It just feels like we're not that the Texans aren't really. I guess you could obviously tell that Joe Mixon is definitely missed.
Yeah,
He is definitely missed because like it's like right now, to the credit of the Texans, they've been doing what they can with what they have, right? So it almost seems like, well, how can we use these guys more effectively? And I know it's pretty hard to do that with a team that's missing some key players. I think Cam Akers alone had 9 rushing attempts for 42 yards. It was averaging 4.7, and his longest was a 15. He did have a touchdown though. Daryl Windawala, he had more rushing attempts than Cam Akers at 15. He had 30 yards on. He put up for 30 yards, and he was averaging like
2 yards.
about 2 yards per carry. Longest was like of 7. And after that, really, it's just CJ Stroud was the one after at 27 yards. He almost caught up with a Wundawale as far as rushing yards and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. With the play calling, it's like Sloak is trying to establish the run, but that worked in San Francisco because you had the running backs
right.
to run that system. With Joe Mixon now, you don't really have a starting caliber running back right now, so you gotta have to make adjustments, and they really haven't made too many adjustments. They still try to force the run when it with the EPA is almost negative yards. It's almost basically like just a free down at that point. Like, got to get a little bit more creative and less conservative with the play calling to kind of make up for the lack of a starting caliber running back at the moment.
I think you mentioned it before. It's like you need to start, yes, with the creativity. I think you need to have Stroud do some check downs or something like that. I know that we check downs, but the Texans fans are like check downs, but some check downs, some screen passes, something that'll help alleviate some of that pressure off of CJ, because they're coming at him since they know that the run game is running a little stale right now.
Yeah, like
So
it's like basketball. You have to give your guy, a couple layups here and there to get it,
mhm,
get the juices going. But they, run
yeah.
up, halfback dive on first down,
The
halfback.
thing is, every first down is always a run. Like you're expecting a run. It's becoming a bit predictable at this point, right? Like every first down, run. First down, run. Like you said, you're giving them a free down, if anything. It's
Yeah, like if you want to establish the run, maybe a little bit more of misdirection that like they did with that Cam Akers touchdown. They had
Mhm.
a little bit of misdirection and he was able to, break free off through this on the sidelines versus
Yeah.
trying to run it up the middle. Like Abunguale is not a power back. Cam
No.
Akers, as he can get those tough yards, but that's not necessarily his game. He's more of a zone runner. But
Mhm.
the what's a nice way to say this? The lack of run blocking it affects these guys because these guys aren't starting running backs. Like they kind of need the line to help them a little
Right.
bit more versus like a guy like Joe Mixon who can even if their hole's not there, he's going to find a way to get some yardage.
Yeah, and here's a quote by D'Amico Ryans on his thoughts on Cam Akers and Darrell Wundawala stepping up in games. Um, D'Amico said Cam and Dare did a really nice job with the role that they have been asked to take on with us, missing Joe and Damian. They have done a good job in the touchdown run. First and foremost, it starts with the blocking. That is probably our most well blocked run of the entire day. So a very clean run right there for Cam to get to the end zone. End quote. I believe he's talking about when Cam Akers got to the touchdown.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly outside of Joe Mixon, that's probably the best blocking they've done on a single
Mhm.
play since week 2.
Yeah. It has been. There was some improvement, I gotta admit. There was a if you compare the games from last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars to now, a lot less penalties. It felt like more the Texans did get a little bit more discipline in that. Of course, there were still some penalties, right?
Well, yeah,
Laramie Tunsil did not show up with penalties this weekend. What?
who had that on their bingo card? Not us.
Nobody.
No,
Well,
it's
was
crazy.
there an over under on that?
I think it was like 3.
Wow.
But not like in the first half, they were very disciplined, no penalties. But the
Mhm.
second half is just like they kind of just kind of
We're
lost
backwards again.
and they just some I wouldn't say boneheaded penalties, but they were very ill timed. And then
Mhm.
normally like it'd be one of the situations where so those penalties would have came back to bite them. But
Yeah.
fortunately for them, they have CJ Stroud who was bailing them out all day.
Yeah, even some of the penalties, I think there was one on Damian, not on Damian Pierce, excuse me, on Jalen Petrie that was, I think he was trying to get out of the way, but still, I think he ended up lowering his body a little too much and ended up looking like he had hit somebody on the helmet.
Yeah,
Josh Allen, right? Yeah, Allen, yeah, and
the rest of
so
the passer like if you see the quarterback going down, man, you just don't give the refs a reason to throw the flag because they're going to throw it every time.
mhm.
Especially with like the elite quarterbacks, like they're going to get the benefit of that. Even if it's like a minor tap, they're going to throw the flag for roughing the passer. It's just the way the league is. You got to be smarter. Like you see the quarterback going down, back up.
Yeah.
'Cause,
As soon as they start seeing the little slide or the little whatever, giving himself up, that's it.
just let up. Don't try to dive at him because what do you gain from hitting a guy that's already on the ground? You're not going to stop him from getting any yards. All you're going to do is hurt your team.
Yeah. So definitely some calls, and then I think Shaq Mason had about two other penalties again this game, and it's something that you rarely see from Shaq Mason as well.
He's been one of the more consistent linemen as far as you're not getting a lot of penalties and be able to, play his assignment. But these
Yeah.
pre-snap penalties is, I wouldn't say cause for concern from him. He's a 10-year veteran. Like it's a little out of character for him, and I think they eventually clean that up.
Yeah, overall though, even the penalties that they had, I don't think any of them really took them as opposed to the previous weekend, and actually since the last couple of weeks, where it completely ruined the dynamic of the drive. It didn't. I don't really see that happen a lot this game.
On the offensive side, no, there wasn't any drive killing penalties.
Yeah.
Fortunately for them. On the defense side,
Defensive side, yeah.
Petrie roughing the passer gave them 15 yards, and from there they just
Mhm.
drive down the field and score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So that one was kind of a little bit of a momentum changer because you gave them free 15 yards because it was going to be, I believe, third down, if I'm not mistaken.
Third,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, they're about to get off the field. Like, you got to be smarter when it's third down, like, especially when the quarterback is running, because the league is going to try to protect these quarterbacks as best they can. So
Mhm.
just smart.
All right, so let's do a little deep dive in. Since you're heading in the offense, so if you want to start off with CJ Stroud real quick, or whoever, I think it's, yeah, CJ that you had, and let's give us a rundown on what you saw with CJ Stroud this weekend.
Well, let's start with the bad. 'Cause I would like to end on a positive note. So let me start with some of the bad. Um, the turnovers were a little. One of them was almost a backbreaking turnover that he fumbled. It wasn't his fault. He As soon as he got the ball, he had like
On
three
the
yards
end zone,
on him.
by the
And
end zone.
yeah,
Yeah.
luckily the defense is able to hold them to just to a field goal, but that could have been a game sealing turnover. And CJ has been pretty good as far as not getting a whole lot of turnovers. That and the interception. I mean, that interception was just a bad throw. It's very uncharacteristic of Stroud. You usually don't see him make errors like that. But that was a bad throw. You threw it right to the Buffalo defender. I don't know if he wasn't. I guess he didn't see him coming in time because the guy that intercepted it, he was guarding Schultz, and then he saw the play wasn't going to Schultz, and the next person in the area was Diggs. So he figured, okay, it's probably going to Diggs, and he diagnosed it correctly and was able to get the INT.
Seemed like a miscommunication thing that happened right there. But overall, like, I think he also cut he also cut the route pretty decently. So I think that was a pretty good play also by Buffalo. So credit to them on that one. To be honest, it was just I was listening to Seth Payne and them in the morning, and they were like, "No, that's a Hall of Famer would do that any day too." So it's a common mistake, except it was just like in a bad area. Yeah.
But no, some of the good for Stroud. So he finished the day 28 of 38, pretty accurate, 331 yards, the one touchdown and the one interception. And he's able to pick up some yards on the ground as well. So, we had talked about during the offseason was we would like to see Stroud use his legs a little bit more, not take off like Anthony Richardson, but, there are times where he's able to, escape the pocket and pick up some positive yards. I know he likes to, stay in the pocket and, buy time to, for the play down the field, but there's sometimes you can get a few yards here and there to make it, your life a little bit easier on those second and third downs where you're not in long situations.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that to me, yeah, that those are your positives, right? With CJ.
And not
What
just
else you got?
that, I also want to highlight his efficiency on third and fourth
Go for it.
downs.
Mhm.
Let me pull it up real quick. So yesterday on third downs, he was 9 for 10 for 139 yards
Mhm.
against Buffalo's blitzing. Like they were coming after Stroud because the
Mhm.
running game was pretty ineffective.
Right.
But on those third downs, almost 90% accuracy for almost 140 yards.
You
Just
know,
on third downs.
when you talked about him using his legs a little more, what I did notice this season at least, his ability to escape the pocket pretty well. Like, I think that has been an upgrade of CJ since last season, his rookie year. Like, I feel like his ability to just avoid defenders in the pocket when the pocket's collapsing. His ability to just kind of move, I think, is it move right? Because I think when he moves left, that's probably the where he completes his least number of passes, right? But I
Yeah.
think his ability to scramble in the pocket, I think, has gotten a lot better this season than the previous one, right?
Yeah, he's gotten a few more yards on the ground. I think the longest run so far for him this season is like, I believe, 13 yards,
Mhm.
which, you didn't really see too much of it last year because he didn't really try to run last year and also just didn't have the time to be able to, escape like that. But this year he's gotten a little bit more time to maneuver in the pocket and he's, taken off a couple of times. I don't want him taking
Mhm.
off a whole lot, but
Right.
it's it's positive that he uses is able to pick up those yards, especially in those long yardage situations where it's like first and 20 and you pick
Mhm.
up 11, 12 yards. It makes your job a little bit easier on second and third down.
Yeah, no, I've seen definitely some improvement. I don't know, it's probably because the pass protection isn't all there, so he's had to adjust as opposed to last season. I mean, you gotta admit, last season's pass protection
It was
was definitely a lot better than what this year is for him.
and it's crazy because last season it was mainly it was a revolving door at the tackle
Mhm.
positions. It was a revolving door at the guards and center positions. Like they had 6 or 7 different offensive line
Mhm.
rotations in the first like 8 weeks. Like they didn't
Right.
have most of their starters, and this
Mhm.
season, outside of this past game against the Bills, they've had their starting lineup the entire time.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it exactly. It's like it feel like it meshed a lot better last season than it did this season as far as the offensive line is concerned for the Houston Texans. Like, and I think that's probably why we didn't why anyone saw CJ Stroud move around as much around the pocket and just kind of stayed there still. But um this season, like the pass protection just doesn't seem to click well. So I think like CJ has had to maneuver around, has had to adjust, has had to acclimate to whatever's around him, and I'm sure his awareness has gotten a lot better as well in the pocket because I mean the lack of pass protection this season.
Well, yeah, you can see, especially on some of those throws that he had like on second and third down, where he was, buying time in the pocket and was, being able to lead his receivers and to, throw them open essentially. You see him taking that next step, like which most people would assume that he was going to do this season. Take that next step that a lot of these quarterbacks took in their second years, like the Mahomes and the Joe Burrows of the world.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do to be in that elite level. You got to adjust and change it up a bit.
And he is leading the league in passing right now at
There you go.
1385.
Yeah, there you go. Do you have anything else on Stroud
No, I
or
mean that pretty much covers it. Like I said, we covered some of the not so great, and then
Mhm.
basically saving the team on those third downs because they had a lot of third down situations.
Yeah.
Almost half his yards came on third down.
Yeah. All right. For me, I do want to, as far as the negatives here, what I saw, I gotta say, I think to me the safety position is still an area of concern. I mean, yeah, Jimmy Ward out there who injured himself again out there as well. I think about Jimmy Ward is that every time I see him, like he's giving it 100%, and I think that's the problem. It sounds weird because of his age. Like when he gives it 100%, you're like, oh man, Jimmy's gonna end up getting hurt, and then of course you see him get hurt a little bit here and there.
It happened on the very first play of the game.
First play, yeah, and then it happened towards I can't remember what the next time it went because he got back in, and
I
then I
in
think it
the
was before the half. Was it
Yeah, it
before
was
the half or after?
before the
Yeah,
half. It was in the second
something like
quarter.
yeah.
Lieutenant, then they ruled him out after halftime.
Right after that, he was just ruled out, and that was a big loss. I mean, that not excuse me, I take that back. That was a loss in a position that's already in need. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Kalen Bullock is eventually going to pick it up, but it's not happening right now.
Still a
And
rookie.
so
He's
yeah,
20.
still a rookie, and so I think that secondary part of it too. Like, don't get me wrong, Derek Stingley has been amazing in coverage, but if you notice, you mentioned it also, Reels, in our text thread. Like, there, a lot of teams are starting to pick on Kamari Lassiter.
It's
It,
3 weeks in
it's
a row now. Like they
3 weeks in a row they're picking on Kamari Lassiter. Now, stat wise, if you look at the stats, he looks pretty decent because he looks like he's making some plays. But at the end of the day, like they're picking on Kamari Lassiter's side more than anything.
if you look at the film, like the stats won't show, but if you look at the film,
Mhm.
he's gotten beat.
Mhm.
But what's bailed him out is inaccurate quarterback throws.
Yeah,
Because especially against Jacksonville, he was burnt twice by Brian Thomas Jr. And if Trevor Lawrence puts those throws on the money, those two
yeah.
touchdowns for him.
This game against Buffalo. I mean him against Keon Coleman. Like Keon Coleman didn't have a great game at all. He couldn't catch any of Josh Allen's passes, and the one he did, he went straight for a touchdown,
Yeah,
and that was on Kamari Lassiter because of a missed tackle.
yeah. He bit on the double move, and that was
Mhm.
it.
That
That's
was
what
it. He literally made Kamari Lassiter eat his lunch. Like that's how bad it was. It was
and that was
crazy.
Coleman's only catch of the day.
It was, and he made Kamari Lassiter pay for it, and I was like, man, I'm just hoping, like, I'm not critiquing the guy or anything. I'm just hoping that, man, this is one of those things where he probably looks back at it and says, wow, I missed it. So it's a learning experience nonetheless. But man, that was a costly one, to be honest.
And it's going to be a season long thing because teams aren't going to throw towards Derek Stingley
Mm-mm.
because
They're avoiding him as much as possible.
he hasn't allowed a catch in like I believe the last 2 games. I know this
Mhm.
game when they were targeting Stingley, I got the numbers right here. So,
I mean, Josh Allen, I think, targeted Sting a couple of times, and I can't recall a time where it was actually a completion.
yeah, so he targeted Stingley's side of the field 4
Mhm.
times, no catches and 1 pass
Yeah.
breakup.
Exactly. So Stingley has been top tier. course, I mean, he's been pretty good, and that's what you were that's what you were expecting out of Derek Stingley anyway. His performance on that, but nonetheless, I think that secondary, Eric Murray has also been out there on the field a lot, and that's got a little bit of concern. He now keep in mind his performance this past weekend. Like yes, he did allow a touchdown, but aside from that, after that, he kind of got locked in, but. I think what concerns me a little bit is having Eric Murray out there way too long.
Yeah, the percentage of the snaps. He was out there for 80% of the snaps on defense.
Yeah.
That's Eric Murray is not. You, I wouldn't rely on him as a starting safety out there.
Right.
Great in small spots here and there,
Mhm.
but if he's out there for 80% of the snaps, he's going to allow a touchdown. He's allowed a touchdown the last 3 weeks. He allowed
Yeah.
it against Minnesota, Jacksonville, and now Buffalo.
Yeah. So now, right now, it's like as much as I I complain about the secondary here and there, they're still ranked number 3 in the NFL in pass defense, allowing only 154 passing yards to opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Crazy, huh?
they've done a great job. I think what helps them a lot is essentially Stingley's side of the field is
Yeah.
he's on the island. But it's not they're not going to throw the ball to that side of the field.
So they're only going through either to Kamari or to the the safety side. And that's really about it.
Yeah, I mean
Down the middle at times, yeah.
they've had a little bit of success, going through the middle,
Mhm.
and that goes that towards the safeties and the linebackers. But it
Mhm.
hasn't been anything that's cost them any game so far. I mean,
Yeah.
outside the Minnesota game, but that game was just one of those where they
Mhm.
just had a bad day at the office.
Yeah. And the Texans defense right now is currently ranked at number 4 in NFL in total defense, allowing again just 274 yards per game. So they're ranked number 4 in the league, so they're a top 5 defense, if you're wondering. Um, but honestly, I will say that um pass defense for the Texans to me, that's what kind of shined. Pass defense was incredible. Uh I think they only allowed Josh Allen to have 4 out of 18 uh passes. Like that right there is apparently one of the worst in the league. I think the last time it was that bad was I think when Jared Goff was like in the Rams, was a rookie in the Rams.
Yeah, back in
Like
2012.
2012. Like it's been a while, but that was one of the worst passing that allowed, for Josh Allen to go through. Like they made him look ridiculous at one point. I mean, honestly, if you're looking at it, Texans defense only put, I think Josh Allen was what, had 30% completion, 131 yards, 4 yards per attempt, like one touchdown, and his longest was of like 49 yards.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, outside of that 49-yard touchdown pass, he was not really moving the
right.
ball towards his receivers or even to his tight ends. Credit
Yeah.
to
Kincaid.
Like he did a great job playing sideline to
Yeah.
sideline, breaking up some passes.
Yeah, and so that to me, that defense shines in my eyes. They're gonna they get my flowers today, the defense. But I guess for you, you had CJ Stroud as your standout shout out player, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, like I mentioned on the third downs, without those third down conversions, this is a different ball game. And they were almost on cruise control in the first half.
Mhm.
But one of the areas that we've continuously talked about is concerning is the play calling.
Yeah.
He gets some of the calls are questionable at best, and then it gets very conservative, and then there's like no adjustments in the second half.
Yeah.
Like again, I go back to that, running it up the middle on 4th and 1. It's an 11-play drive where your quarterback has been, throwing dots, and then you decide to take it out of his hands, rush to the line, and then give it to the running back. You're basically just halfback dive right up the middle. Like did Madden tell you to do that? Like what was going on there? What was the thought process? And
Madden playbook.
it didn't work, and it kind of changed the tone of the game because you have a chance to, even if you don't convert on 4th down, take the
Mhm.
points. If you're gonna, want to nitpick at it, at
Mhm.
that point it would have been 17-3, 2-touchdown game at that point. So completely different ball game. But you turn it over on downs. You allow Buffalo to score 20 unanswered points.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So now, I want to talk about my standout shout out player, and then, like you've heard, it's Aziz Al-Shire. Now, at first, you look at Aziz and you're like, well, he missed a couple tackles. He did, and for big gain also. But here's the thing: Alshire was questionable to even be in that game because he was in the IR on Saturday. Like that's how he had an undisclosed illness, but he was in the hospital Saturday, the day before the game. So yes, he wasn't playing his best ball at some aspects of the game, but guess what? Overall, he ended up making a lot of clutch stops that could have resulted in a lot in the score being a lot more different than what it actually was. Uh, to give you some stats on Alshire, he had one tackle for loss. He had uh, total tackles were 5. He assisted 3 of those, and combined he had 8. Two two pass deflections that could have resulted in interceptions would have been game changers. It was like back to back. Also, it was
Oh, it
like
was,
back to back plays where he had 2 deflections that were this close to being intercepted both times. So, and then finally 2 quarterback hits. I mean, for a guy that again was in the IR the day before in the hospital recovering from an illness to have a game like that, to me, that's a leader right there. That shows the dedication that he brings to the team, and just overall that is leadership right there. So Alshire gets the flowers for me today.
yeah, that's the quarterback of the defense. He was
Yeah,
again like the dude lost like what 10 pounds
he lost
overnight.
10 pounds, dude, in one day. You don't want to know
I
how.
would love to do that, but not that way.
Yeah, not in that way. So it's insane. 10 pounds in a day.
Yeah, like I said, he was like I had mentioned off air. Like I was watching the game with my brother and my friend, and we were something I had brought up was like we haven't had a sideline to sideline linebacker. The
In a
team hasn't
minute.
had a sideline to sideline linebacker since D'Amico, honestly.
Yeah.
Most of the linebacking duos that Houston has had the last few years, they were basically guys that were 2 down guys. Like on passing situations, you kind of had to take them off the field because they weren't that they weren't very good in coverage. But with Alshire, it's a 3 down linebacker. He can
Yeah.
cover and he can also make tackles for losses and be able to get in the backfield and disrupt passing plays.
Yeah, I think there's times when he was going, like you said, sideline to sideline, when Josh Allen was trying to make some plays on the field. I mean, he brought that pressure to Josh Allen, and it didn't result in anything. Was just throwaway balls, if anything. Now, let me ask you a question, Reels. We talked about CJ, what he was able to do. By the way, we haven't mentioned that CJ Stroud and the yards that he put up, a lot of them were without Nico Collins, because he got like what, the 67 of those yards attributed to Nico Collins. But after Nico Collins went out, it was just CJ Stroud making some plays. So without Nico Collins, now let me ask you this: without your top receiver, yes, you still have Stephon Diggs, yes, you still have Tank Dell, and Xavier Hutchinson contributed to some of those. I think he had like a first down. I think he converted a third down or whatever
Yeah,
at
he
one
had
of those times.
a couple long games. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So, there was some comparison. I think we did a list of like quarterbacks this during the offseason. Like, we were naming like our top 10 quarterbacks, and we had Josh Allen pretty high on our list for some of us.
Yeah.
After today's game, after, really after he lost Gabe Davis, after the loss of Stephon Diggs, and after the loss of his receiver that was out this past weekend, how do you, after seeing this performance where I think Josh Allen ended up, like I said, he was reduced to, I think, only 131 yards. Um, does that change your perspective a little bit on Josh Allen's ranking on the list now, or do you still feel like it's the same?
No, I would actually because I believe I had Josh Allen at number 4.
Yeah.
I'd Stroud at 5, so I would swap those 2 because with the as we saw the first few weeks when Buffalo was playing, teams that are not going to be contenders this season. Yeah, Josh Allen looked great, but when you went against the Ravens last week, you kind of need that alpha receiver out there that's going to be able to make those key catches in situations where it's like third down, fourth down. They didn't really have a guy that was able to do that last week, and we saw it again this week. Like they're going to be able to beat the lesser teams in the NFL, but when they go against the actual like teams that are going to be in the playoffs, they're going to struggle because you don't really have a reliable pass catcher. You don't have the Stephon Diggs out there. They don't have a Nico Collins out there. They don't have someone that's going to be dependable that is going to make a play when you need a play. They are lacking playmakers. They
Mhm.
essentially relying on Josh Allen to basically put on the Superman cape every single time, and that's not going to work in this league.
Right. 100%. So, speaking of Nico Collins, I just wanted to quote D'Amico Ryans when they asked him this weekend on the press in the after press on the injury update for wide receiver Nico Collins. D'Amico Ryans said, "Nico, he's in good spirits, of course. With the hamstring, it takes a couple of weeks for hamstring, so we'll evaluate that on a week to week basis to see when we can get him back." End quote. With that being said, usually for like a more serious it kind of seems like it's not as serious as expected. I mean, you were able to see Nico walk in his own power and everything. And I remember this always brings me back whenever they talk about hammies. And do you remember? I think it was like I want to say 10, 12, and back in 2011, 2012, 20. I think it was 2011. It was with TJ Yates. It was that year that Andre Johnson had
No,
injured his
it
hammy.
was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was
Correct. It was yeah,
yeah,
and then his productive season was like, oh no. So the Texans, they did what they could, and they still had a successful season without Andre. Then Andre came back and re-injured his other hammy. Do you remember that? Because I think he came back a little too soon than expected.
mhm.
And so with this one, it looks different because Andre Johnson at that time looked a lot worse, and it took him about 5 to 6 weeks to recover or something like that.
Yeah,
With
because
Nico,
he fell to the ground. He wasn't able to get
yeah,
back up.
he couldn't get up. Like Nico just scored the touchdown, he was still able to walk out in his own power. So it doesn't seem like much. Now, of course, that's what it looks like. It doesn't mean that's exactly where it is, but it seems like they're kind of downplaying it a little bit because at first it was day to day, then they're saying it was week to week. So I guess it all depends. I don't expect to see Nico this weekend. I
No,
don't expect him to see him in the weekend with the Packers. I can kind of I think the Texans might see him against Indy at the most. And there's even depending on how Indy is, I think it all depends. So you might see him after Indy, but I think we could see him during the Indy game again. What do you
no,
think?
I can see that because against the Patriots, again, not to talk down on the Patriots, but
Mhm.
they're the Texans aren't overly concerned. They can get by just fine without
Yeah.
Nico Collins this
It
week.
doesn't seem like they're too concerned, right?
Same thing with Joe Mixon. I don't expect him to suit up this week either. I think they're probably gonna hold him out one more week just to make sure he's 100%. They
Yeah.
will definitely need him against Green Bay, but I
Mhm.
think they can get by without Nico against Green Bay as well. It's gonna be a tough match, but again, you don't want to with hamstrings. They're tricky. Like they can
Yeah.
always aggravate really easily. So I think they're gonna take what I've noticed with this training staff. They
Mhm.
go the safe route when it comes to these injuries. They were focused on the long term picture versus we need this guy back for this game because it's just one regular season game. Like they're thinking this is it's a long season. They're thinking down the road. If the guys miss a game or two extra, we rather do that than get them out there early and they get re-aggravate their injury.
Yeah, exactly. I will say this, so to back you up on this, on the Joe Mixon one, I think D'Amico had a quote on this, and he says he was asked if they sent out an overall message about the hip drop tackle that injured Joe Mixon. Well, it doesn't really give much of an update on him on Joe Mixon, but it talks about the hip drop tackle. That's what basically got Joe Mixon injured anyway.
Right.
Joe is out because of that. The hip drop tackle, and the NFL is doing a great job of communicating for the entire league of how we want to tackle, how we should tackle, and we're trying to get that out of the game. I think some guys have been fined for making those illegal tackles, but the fine doesn't get your guy back soon enough. So it still hurts us that Joe is out, and we want to make sure as a league that we're doing a better job of eliminating the hip drop tackle. Make sure we're running our feet as defenders are making sure we just get that out of the game. End quote. So I think I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that hip drop. Like it's very subjective at some points, almost kind of like the whole what possession really means, you know? They couldn't really explain it to you, but I don't know that it's a call that should have been called, honestly. And that's why the Texans are hurting without Joe Mixon right now.
I mean, there's a reason the NFL wants to take it out because
Mhm.
it it causes these injuries. High ankle sprains, torn ACLs. It's
Mhm.
not good for the league to have some of his star players missing due to unnecessary risks like the hip
Exactly.
tackle.
Yeah. So let's move on to next week. Texans versus the Patriots at Um, in New England, which I believe the Texans have not won at all in New England, if I'm not mistaken.
No, yeah, they haven't won a game in New England. They've beaten the
Yeah.
Patriots, but they've beaten the Patriots at home. I believe
At
the last
home, yeah.
against New England was in 2019, I believe, was the last
I
time
think it
he
was
was able.
yes, that's correct with Deshaun Watson at the helm. And he it's yeah, with Bill Belichick. I think Brady was already out of there. Yeah, Brady was already out there if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, Brady
Or
was still
was he? No, he was still playing. Okay, he was still playing there. But yeah,
that was Brady's last season in New England.
that's correct. Yes, that is exactly right. So, with that being said, there's a they don't know if the rookie quarterback is going to start or not. There's like rumors going around that the rookie quarterback is going to start. So D'Amico was asked yesterday on how they're preparing to for both rookie and a veteran quarterback. The quote D'Amico said is, "For us, whenever you're preparing for the unknown, only thing we can prepare for is what we've seen on tape with the quarterback that they've had play over these first few 4 to 5 weeks of the season. Now, if the young guy gets in, we have to be prepared to adjust. So, of course, we'll go back and watch as much as we can on him from his preseason plays, but our focus will just be on structurally what they do as an offense." End quote from D'Amico Ryans. I think if they put in the rookie quarterback, they're going to try to disguise him and fool him as much as possible. I mean, they had some of those successful disguises on defense against Josh Allen himself that kind of threw him off. So if Josh Allen, with all his experience, can get thrown off, I think the rookie quarterback will get thrown off either as well if it's him. If not, I think it's Jacoby Brissett, right? That's leading. That's with the Patriots. I mean, Jacoby Brissett is a running quarterback. He can run, so he might be able to hurt you there, here, and there. But
He's the most effective runner. I think his own coach said he's one of the slowest running quarterbacks he's ever seen.
yeah, I mean, but if he's still able to move some plays, that could be a little. I mean, I'm not saying like Anthony Richardson or Lamar Jackson style s. You know what I mean? But he can extend some plays, if anything. But other
But
than that,
with that offensive line, they're whoever is playing
yeah,
quarterback is going to have a long day. They have
yeah,
struggled in pass protection
yeah.
tremendously.
So,
Up a lot of sacks, a lot of hurries, a lot of QB hits, and
which
if they
should be good for Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson, right?
well, so if you look at the advanced statistics, their win rate's pretty high. They're beating their assignments, but they're just not getting the sacks. Similar to what we saw last
Yeah.
season with Will Anderson, almost getting the sack.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks good on paper with the sacks, but they're disrupting plays. They're making the quarterback, release the ball sooner than he wants to, which causes a lot of those incompletions as well. So, but I think against New England, they're probably going to have more success on paper as far as like stats and tackles for losses.
Yeah. No, it should be. It definitely should be a good game. Maybe it's a game that if you're the Texans, like this is a game that you look forward to and say, okay, where are some areas that they can fix or whatever. So honestly, I'm looking forward to this one. I have the Texans winning it. Not downplaying the Patriots at all because I mean the Patriots are going to Patriot here and there. So you can't downplay any team no matter how they look right now.
Well, for
Yeah.
me, this has the rumblings of a trap game
It
almost.
does. It does, doesn't it?
It is very similar to last season again when they played the Falcons and when they played the Panthers.
Yeah.
Last
And the
season,
Jets.
they essentially played down to their competition.
Mhm.
Both of those teams weren't very good last year, but
Yeah.
and again, that's what concerns me about the play calling. They
Mhm.
called a very conservative game script last year, and it ended up costing them 2 games.
Right.
And I'm
Uh,
concerned here is they're going to go ultra conservative again and allow the Patriots to hang around, and they might be able to sneak off with a win. We've
yeah.
seen it twice already.
Yeah, 100%. I think so too. I think it does kind of feel like a trap game as well, but nonetheless, it's something to look forward to because yes, I agree. I think the play calling might be a little bit conservative. Maybe Bobby's going to try to
Established the run.
run it up and first down again and try to get something, but I don't know. It does feel like a little bit like a trap game, to be honest, but
And
hopefully it has the makings of it, but hopefully it's not. And it's one of those, you know,
were
the
they
Texans like to put the fans into blood pressure medication because of all the games that have been so close that really shouldn't be close. So,
yeah.
for once, I think it would be beneficial for the fans to have a two score lead in the fourth quarter, or whatever. Make it a yeah, Seth Payne said earlier this morning. Give it a really boring fourth quarter where it's like up by 3 scores or something like that, where there's no more competition for the sake of the fans. You do that,
right? For their blood pressure,
for their
their
blood
mental
pressure.
health.
Yeah.
No, but so what I mentioned about the conservative play calling, which
Mhm.
concerns me for this game. So if you look at the advanced stats as far as passing and rushing efficiency on first and second down, Houston is 29th in the league. 29th out of 32 teams. It's just not great. They essentially get negative yards on those first two downs.
Yeah.
Which you usually don't want to go backwards on first and second down. It's typically not the keys to success. But on third down, third and fourth down, they're the second best team in the league.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, again, talking about the guy I gave flower to, CJ Stroud. He's essentially bailing the team out on those third and fourth down situations because they're just not getting it done on first and second down. I believe those numbers will, change once Joe Mixon comes back and they're actually able to establish the run.
Yeah.
But I think for now, they should probably focus on trying to use the pass to set up the run, because doing it the opposite way, as the numbers show, with negative 2 yards, yeah, that's just not acceptable for an NFL offense, especially one with the talent that the Texans have on the offensive side of the ball.
At some point, it's one of those things where you got to trust your quarterback on what he does. You got to trust your quarterback. You got to let him sling it. You got to let him make his own choices there. But that conservative play calling, I think that's what's kind of holding the Texans back a little bit.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. You have a top 5 quarterback, but you're trying to establish the run with a third and fourth string running back. Make it make sense, Bobby.
Yeah. So, nonetheless, I think that's going to be it for us this week. Anything else you want to add to the table?
No, that was
Score prediction.
Yeah, let's do score predictions. So I know I said that it has the makings of a trap game, but I believe year 2 of D'Amico, he's something we didn't mention. He's done a great job of managing the game. Those 3 timeouts at the end of the game, those were key.
Yeah.
It's something that, in the Bill O'Brien days, one of the biggest critiques against him was just
the time management,
complete lack of awareness when it came to game management.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to have the guys ready. They were able to clean up the penalties this past week for the most part. But I think he's going to have these guys, really focus, because you don't want to overlook any opponent. And I think he's going to have them especially focus this week. If you look at the Patriots record and how they've played lately, you think, we can just show up and win. No, I think he's going to have them, really, focus, continue the discipline and not get a lot of flags. If they, execute the game plan correctly, it should be a comfortable win for them. I'm going to go, I think they finally cracked the 30 points this week.
I think so.
I'm going to go 35-12 Texans.
Okay. 35-12 Texans. Okay. High score. Every time I want to give them high score, it still doesn't happen. And so I'm going to keep it conservatively. I'm going to keep it like Bobby Slowik here. So I'm going to give it a 2017. I know. I take that back. I don't know how well the New England offense might be. Let's go with 2013.
Oh, close.
1 score possession, I think, by the Texans. And honestly, I think the Texans win it 2013. I think the Texans get at least 2 to 3 sacks this game. So that's I'm gonna go 2013 Texans.
Yeah, I think they'll probably get more than that, just because New England, I think right now they're in bottom 3 or 4,
which would be great.
Yeah, as far as pass protection. So if I was, the defensive coordinator this week, I'd have these guys pinning their ears back, because they're going to have ample opportunities to build up those sack numbers like they did against.
You got to feast. You got to feast.
Because if Drake May is playing, I view it's going to be similar to that Chicago game, except the Patriots aren't as good as the Bears.
Yeah.
So you expect to see 6-7 sacks easily.
There you go. All right, guys. So that's going to be it for us this week. Tune in next week when we have the aftermath of the Texans-Patriots game. Same time, same place on Tuesday. So during your lunchtime. If you don't want to see our ugly mugs, it's okay. We're also on Spotify as well. Also, please follow us on at Bring on the Blitz at B Blitz Pod on our X account, just like you see it there. Of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel at B Blitz Pod. And of course, our Instagram account at which is at B Blitz Pod as well, all in the same. And all this is part of the Araskina Podcast Network. Follow Araskina on their X account at Araskina, of course, as well as their Instagram account. A lot of good baseball content happening right now with the playoffs going on. And of course, the guys will take care of you for any great, amazing baseball content. You got the guys from the Full Steam Ahead who are also part of the Araskina Network. That's going to be it for us, guys. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate y'all. See y'all next week. Peace.